Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really unpacking the 2025 Tesla Annual Shareholder Meeting.
Yeah, and if you thought this was just going to be a dry run-through of sales figures.
Yeah, think again. I mean, prepare yourself. We are looking at a company that's, well, it's juggling these high-stakes corporate governance fights.
Right.
While also projecting this, frankly, wild future involving what? Tens of billions of advanced robots?
Pretty stark contrast, isn't it? The scale is just... yeah. Wow. Our sources today are excerpts from the meeting you'll hear from the general counsel, the board chair, CEO, plus some shareholder voices.
Okay.
And our mission, really, is to try and synthesize three key things for you. First, what did Tesla actually deliver recently? What's the scorecard?
Got it.
Second, what do these internal battles over accountability actually look like? The governance side.
Right, the messy stuff.
Exactly. And third, what's this next book they keep talking about? This, radical tech future.
Okay, sounds like a plan. So let's start with that first piece, the 2024 scorecard. Because that really sets the stage, doesn't it? The numbers are, well, they're pretty big.
They are genuinely massive.
Yeah.
On the car side, the Model Y, again, bestseller worldwide.
Yeah.
Not just electrics.
Any vehicle. They made a point of that.
Any vehicle in 2024. But the really explosive growth, I think, is the energy business. They put out 31 gigawatt hours in 2024.
31. And that's more than double the year before, right?
More than double 2023's deployment, yeah.
And that doubling, that's crucial because the board chair really hammered this point. Their huge installed base of energy stuff, power walls, mega packs, that's now the foundation for future recurring money.
Services, yeah.
Turning the hardware into a service platform. They mentioned virtual power plants, leveraging their AI.
And that whole infrastructure idea, it feeds directly into their updated mission. Remember, the old one was just accelerating sustainable energy. Kind of straightforward.
Necessary, yeah.
Now it's about achieving sustainable abundance.
Sustainable abundance, that's a much bigger idea philosophically. How do they define that exactly?
Well, the CEO talked about it as a world where basically all human needs are met. Goods, services, even incredible medical care.
For everyone.
For everyone. And crucially, without wrecking the planet in the process. Meet global demand, but still have beautiful national parks, that kind of balance.
Okay, that's ambitious. Does it connect back to their current impact?
It does. They reported consumers using their products avoided nearly 32 million metric tons of greenhouse gases in 2024.
32 million tons, and that figures up significantly.
Yeah, a 70% increase compared to the year before.
Wow,
Yeah.
Okay. And there was that safety statistic that jumped out too, something about crash rates.
Yes. The global fleet, they said, had just one crash for every, I think it was 6.8 million miles driven.
6.8 million miles between crashes.
Right. And they claim that makes their fleet statistically about 10 times safer than the average driver here in the U.S.
10 times better. That's a bold claim.
And the implication is, as the autonomy gets better, that safety gap will just get wider, maybe, exponentially wider.
Okay, so that's the scorecard. Huge numbers, big impact, and setting up these really ambitious philosophical goals.
Exactly. Which leads us nicely, I suppose, into the governance battleground. This is where the immediate human dramas are unfolding, kind of against that almost utopian vision.
Right. Let's unpack this part, because it wasn't all smooth sailing, was it? Even though leadership got some big wins.
Yeah, the CEO's 2025 pay package, the performance award, that got approved. Over 75% voted yes.
Okay.
And the 3 Class 3 directors, they were reelected too.
There's always a but. The mood felt kind of tense in the source material.
Definitely. And it's really telling that while the board got the pay package through, a different proposal, a binding one to get rid of some supermajority voting rules.
The ones that make basic corporate changes harder.
Precisely. That one was actually rejected by shareholders. So keeping that internal control complexity seems important to some.
Interesting. But the real fireworks, it seems, were around the shareholder proposals the board actively told people to vote against.
Oh, yeah. This is where you really see that clash, right? Profit focus versus maybe broader corporate responsibility or accountability.
Like Proposal 8, the one about tying executive pay to sustainability metrics.
Exactly. The people pushing for it said, look, tie compensation to things like cutting carbon intensity per car or improving better worker safety. They argued it protects shareholder value long-term by reducing risks, legal, ethical.
Makes sense. But the board said no.
Recommended against it, yeah.
And even more direct was Proposal 9, the child labor audit.
Right. The proponent brought up the known risks in cobalt mining. especially in the DRC, the Democratic Republic of Congo.
And their argument was pretty simple, wasn't it? Like, policies aren't proof.
Spot on. They wanted a mandatory, verified, third-party audit, real transparency. But again, the board recommended voting no. The reasoning often comes down to efficiency, cost, avoiding burdensome mandates.
But it creates this huge gap, doesn't it? Between the board saying, our job is maximizing value, and these big institutional investors saying, yeah, but we need verifiable ethical standards too.
It feels like a trust issue, really, not just a policy disagreement.
And that trust thing really seemed to crystallize around the legal accountability proposals, like the one from the New York State Comptroller about the derivative suit threshold. Now, this sounds like boring legal jargon.
Ah, yeah, it does. But the implications are actually pretty massive for you, the average shareholder.
Explain that threshold. What does it mean?
Okay, so basically, if you want to sue the board or management on behalf of the company that's a derivative suit, holding them accountable,
Right.
you currently need to own 3% of Tesla's stock.
Wait, 3%? At Tesla's valuation, what does that even translate to in dollars?
We're talking roughly $30 billion worth of stock.
30 billion.
Yeah. So effectively, that rule makes it impossible for almost anyone except maybe a few giant investment funds or the CEO himself to bring that kind of lawsuit.
So the NY controller called it basically giving the board legal immunity.
That was the framing, yes. Now, the board argues it prevents frivolous lawsuits, protects against distractions.
Sure, but the optics, demanding $30 billion just for the right to hold the board accountable. When you're talking basic shareholder rights, it doesn't look great.
It really doesn't, especially when you contrast it with the company's grand vision.
Exactly. On one hand, promising this sustainable abundance for all humanity.
And on the other, fighting to keep this huge financial barrier protecting them from their own investors. It's yeah, cognitive dissonance is a good word for it. And that dissonance is kind of a perfect pivot point, actually, because there was also Proposal 7. This was advisory, non-binding, about a strategic investment in XAI.
The CEO's other company, the AI venture.
Right. The proponent argued that formally linking up would cement Tesla's lead in autonomous intelligence. Integrate the Grok AI models into FSD, into Optimus. True vertical integration, they called it.
Okay, and what did the board say about that one?
Interestingly, they made no recommendation either way, just stayed neutral.
And the vote?
Preliminary results showed more votes for it than against it, though lots of abstentions too, but it signals something important.
What's that?
That maybe a lot of shareholders are ready to see Tesla as more than just cars. They're willing to sort of fund this next chapter, this almost sci-fi vision.
Which is the perfect lead-in to the new book, right? Starting with Optimus.
Exactly, the humanoid robot.
Yeah.
And when the CEO talks about it, he calls it, and this is a direct quote, we're potentially the biggest product of all time by far.
Whoa, hold on. Biggest product of all time. That's
right.
the...
I mean, the iPhone exists. What kind of scale are they actually talking about here?
The scale is, well, it's astronomical. The vision is for potentially tens of billions of Optimus robots. Billions with a B.
Tens of billions.
Doing what?
Both industrial work and personal roles. The prediction was something like 3 to 5 industrial bots for every one personal bot.
Okay.
And the claims about what they'll do for society are just as huge. Things like Optimus will actually eliminate poverty.
Eliminate poverty.
And provide incredible medical care, eventually being better than, like, the best human surgeon.
Wow. I mean, those claims, eliminating poverty, that's way beyond your typical corporate presentation slide, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
The source material treats this like a fundamental shift for civilization, not just launching another product.
Yeah.
There was even a safety comment that the future needs to be like the Star Wars movie robots, not the scary Jim Cameron movie robot.
Right. Friendly droids, not Terminators. Got it. How do they plan to build billions of these things?
They're talking about the fastest production ramp-up ever for a complex product, starting with a 1 million unit line in Fremont.
1 million units a year, okay.
Then aiming for 10 million units a year in Texas. And long-term, maybe 100 million, maybe even 1 billion units annually.
1 billion robots a year. That's treating humanoid robots like smartphones or something. It's just a completely different way of thinking about manufacturing.
It really is. Which connects to the other big piece of that future, the cybercab.
Right, the dedicated robotaxi. The one with no steering wheel, no pedals. Purely for unsupervised, full self-driving.
And production for that is slated to start in April of 2026. So next year.
Okay, 2026. And the manufacturing goal for the cybercab is just as crazy, right?
Even crazier, maybe? They're aiming for less than a 10-second cycle time per vehicle off the line.
Under 10 seconds per car.
Yeah. Which theoretically means a single production line could churn out maybe 5 million cybercabs a year.
5 million a year from one line.
Yeah.
That's not car manufacturing as we know it. That's more like, I don't know, consumer electronics assembly on a massive scale. It implies insane levels of automation.
Completely redefines it. And the core tech driving both the robot and the cab is FSD, full self-driving.
Where are they with that now? He mentioned versions.
Currently on 14.1 or 14.2, but the goal for the next major version, 14.3, is apparently being able to literally fall asleep and wake up at your destination.
That's the unsupervised dream. And wasn't there a point about texting and driving, like making that okay soon?
Yeah, that was a fascinating tactical point. Targeting that as a sort of killer app once the safety data backs it up.
How does that logic work?
The argument is, right now, some people turn FSD off specifically so they can text, which is obviously dangerous.
Right.
So if FSD is safe enough, allowing texting while it's engaged might actually increase overall safety by keeping people from disabling the system for risky behavior.
Huh. Interesting argument. But that kind of ambition hits regulatory walls, doesn't it? Especially elsewhere.
Absolutely. That's the classic friction. They mentioned Europe specifically, struggling to get even the current normal supervised FSD approved there.
And they actually asked customers to pressure regulators.
Yeah, a direct call for customer action.
Yeah.
It really highlights that gap between how fast the tech is moving and how slow, relatively speaking, policy and regulation adapt.
Okay, that friction, that gap, it sets up the final section perfectly. Because you can't power this massive robot and robotaxi fleet on just, ambition and code.
Yep.
This whole sci-fi future seems to bottleneck on two physical things, chips and energy.
Let's hit chips first. They're designing their own custom AI chip called AI5. And it's optimized only for the Tesla AI software.
Not a general-purpose chip like NVIDIA sells. Why is that distinction important?
Because compared to something like an NVIDIA Blackwell chip, they expect AI5 to give similar performance, but use only about a third of the power.
A third of the power. Okay.
And cost less than 10% as much.
Whoa! Less than 10% of the cost. How?
Because it's specialized. It uses something called integer-based inference, which is super efficient for the kind of math their AI needs. Think of it like they're only building the specific math circuits they need, not all the general stuff, so it's way cheaper and uses less electricity.
Makes sense. But even with efficient chips, the sheer number they'll need must be staggering.
That's the bottleneck. The CEO said it clearly. The need for more chips is the limiting factor. They're getting as many as they can from partners like TSMC and Samsung. But they might actually have to build their own chip factories on a scale we've never seen before from a car company. Vertically integrating chip making.
He actually put a name on it, didn't he? A Tesla terafab.
Yeah. Aiming initially for 100,000 wafer starts a month, which is already huge, but potentially scaling to a complex, doing 1 million wafer starts a month.
1 million wafer starts. For you listening, that basically means Tesla might need to become one of the biggest semiconductor manufacturers on Earth just to feed its own factories making robots and cars.
The capital required is just mind-bending.
Yeah.
And it brings us right to the other bottleneck.
Yeah.
Energy. Powering all this.
Right, back to the energy business. It's not just a side project.
No, it's foundational. The point made in the sources was critical. Without batteries, specifically the big grid-scale megapacks, countries like the U.S. basically waste half their potential electricity generation capacity.
Why only half?
Because of the ups and downs, right? Sun doesn't always shine, wind doesn't always blow. You generate power when you can, but you might not need it then. Batteries act as the buffer, storing it, stabilizing the grid.
So they can smooth out the supply.
Exactly. And this leads to a really powerful claim they made. Batteries alone, just adding storage, could effectively double the energy output of the United States without building a single new power plant.
Double the usable energy just with batteries.
That's the claim. So yeah, the energy business isn't just supporting the cars. It's the fundamental infrastructure needed for this whole sustainable abundance idea to even be possible. Oh, and they also quickly confirmed volume production starts for the Tesla Semi in 2026.
The truck, right.
And the Cybercab, also 2026. Plus, a hint about the Roadster 2 unveil maybe next April. April 1st, actually.
People fools, really.
Seems so. With production maybe 12, 18 months after that. Lots of moving parts.
Okay, so let's try and synthesize this whole deep dive. We're left with this really stark tension, aren't we?
Absolutely. On one side, you've got these immediate, very human, kind of messy governance fights. Shareholders demanding accountability, transparency, wanting to roll back these protective legal rules.
That's the fight over who controls the company today.
Exactly. And on the other side, you have this exponential, almost sci-fi vision. Optimus Cybercab building a giant terafab. It feels like a clash between, I don't know, corporate democracy now versus technological singularity later.
Yeah, shareholders are arguing about board accountability right now, while the CEO is basically painting a future where maybe those kinds of human concerns become less relevant.
Which brings us perfectly to that final, really provocative thought that came up in the meeting. Someone asked a deep question about powerful people giving up control in a world where scarcity is gone.
And the CEO's response was,
It was blunt. He basically said, long term, AI is going to be in charge, not humans.
wow, AI in charge, not humans. That kind of reframes that whole governance debate we just talked about, doesn't it?
Completely. Why fight tooth and nail over shareholder voting thresholds or board independence if the ultimate direction is intelligence scaling far beyond human capacity to manage it anyway?
It leaves you, the listener, with a pretty fundamental question then. What is the long-term role of human governance, human control, when the main engine of progress and maybe even decision-making scales past us?
A heavy thought to chew on. And maybe a good place to leave it for today. Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive.
We catch you next time.